But those of you that don't know me, I've been in real estate for about 14 years. Before that, really my entire life. I'm a third-generation real estate agent. I've gravitated to the technology side and really the lead generation side. I've been a trainer in real estate for the past 4 years. For Keller Williams Realty International, started my own consulting firm. And what really has me interested, why Josh and I are talking, is he has, as you know, one of the most successful lead generation systems for real estate. So I want to show you, right now we have a poll up, and if you just go ahead and if you haven't used GoToWebinar before, on the GoToWebinar software that's a pop-up on your screen, go ahead and under polls, click the box, and right now, Josh, I said how many full leads do you have with Prime Seller? And over 22% of the audience has over 200 leads, which is pretty phenomenal. Those of you who've been in real estate for a while, to have seller-focused leads of 200. Josh, let's go ahead and go to the next poll question.
All right.
And the next question is the one that gets it closer to the bank account. How many appointments do you have from Prime Seller leads? The nice thing about this, Josh, and everyone in the audience, this is great information for myself as a trainer and for Josh as the owner of this software company, iVortex, because they can go back and with each one of your answers, they can compare those on the call that had over 200 leads. How many appointments do you have? One thing that I suspect, because I've been doing this for a while, and the concept of house valuation is not anything new, is that a lot of you are in the cultivation stages of those leads, similar to when we had the buyer's market 3 years ago. Many of you may have noticed, if you did classified ad leads, that a lot of times it was an incubation period. What I noticed through my testing back in 2011, the buyer leads through early in the market sources like Craigslist were typically taking 12 months to really be fully gaining the most out of those leads. So in our audience, we did have some that have knocked it out of the park with 13 or more appointments, but I would say the great majority of you are in that range between 0 to 3. Some of you popped in with 4 to 7 actual appointments from the leads. But I want to encourage you, think about the mindset today of someone who goes to a house valuation site. That is the very first thing that they do in the process before they contact an agent. So I want to encourage you through this training today to stay in touch with them. And then the final question, Josh, if you'll go ahead and pull that up. And those of you who are not voting, unless you're on an iPad, you do not have an excuse. Go ahead and jump in. There's no shame, and especially this question. How would you rate your follow-up? 1 being the best, 5 being the worst on a 1 to 5 scale. And it is split really down the middle, Josh, between good and not good. No one is. We got someone saying excellent. A couple of you. And then a few of you jokingly put, what follow-up? So that's what our topic is today. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. Josh, would you mind on my screen under attendee members and click on staff? Go ahead and right-click on me and put, maybe you already did that. And I'm trying to get...
Yeah, I've made you the organizer.
Okay. And I guess they'll see my screen. Let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and end that poll. We don't have too many that are knocking it out of the park on their own self-assessment of how they're doing in follow-up, and not too many of you said that you're doing absolutely nothing. All right. So if you've been with Prime Seller for any amount of time, you know that it is the secret sauce to lead generation for sellers. It's a hot topic. I've looked at a lot of software. It is the best. Many of you said that you have in excess of 100 leads. As many of you said, over 200 leads. Partial leads, I won't really cover that topic too much today, Josh. But listing appointments, I was encouraged to see that many of you had selected over 13 appointments. And just real quickly, as I go through the webinar, I'll give you some pointers to gain more appointments. But if you knocked it out of the park and you've had over 13 appointments from this, go ahead and type into the question box, what was your strategy? What is your secret to success with that many appointments? So having looked at all these softwares going back over 15 years ago, really to the beginning of the internet, there were sites out there not as nearly as advanced as what we're seeing with Prime Seller, but it's what I call the perfect freemium, the perfect free giveaway that's something of great value to someone. And I think that's why in all of my testing with the agents I work with, typically this first page they come to, at least 25% of the traffic is at least entering their address. You compare that to a normal website that gets 1 to 3% registration rate, and you're already doing much better than most of your competitors that don't know about this software. I've written books. I have a podcast. It's what keeps me up at night. I talk about conversion funnels. How you take someone from taking your free giveaway, your freemium, your free house valuation, and how do you turn them into a real life client that can put actual real money in your bank account through closings. And when I really dissect the Prime Seller process, you have the first process, which does beautifully, gains a high opt-in rate with the free giveaway. The challenge, as many of you have seen, some of you who have in our polls said that you've generated a lot of leads, but you don't have a lot of appointments yet. Where I see the biggest room for improvement that I can take you through today in the next 20-25 minutes is the process to upsell. We know we have built the perfect mousetrap with Josh and all his collaboration with the members. And there's a limit to how good that can get. I mean, 25% opt-in rate. But where I see the biggest room for improvement is that last page. As you know, you have a first page. They enter the address. You have a second page. They enter in their email address. They enter in their property details. You have a third page. And the third page says you're almost there, and that's the one that asks for a phone number. And then you have this fourth page. Well, through the process and why it works so well is because it's not all about the realtor. It's about their property, their house. And it's about this estimate, this instant gratification freemium. You get to this last page, and right now you have the challenge of making an impression, one that will hopefully stay with them so that when you make your follow-up call, they don't think that you're just calling out of the phone book. We'll go over scripts you can use. But Josh, I'll let you go ahead and talk about this. I'm pretty excited about this new page 4 option. Tell me what they now have the ability to do.
Well, this is actually an idea of John Pohly's that I think was fantastic, and that I'm actually a little embarrassed that I didn't think of first. So basically, I just announced this in the private Facebook group, and if any of you on this webinar are not and are a member of Prime Seller Leads or not a part of our private Facebook group, please add me as a friend, Josh Grund. You can easily find me on Facebook, and I'll add you to our private Facebook group. So in any case, I just announced this and made a training video that is up on our YouTube and Vimeo channel as well, where you can walk through and see exactly how this is done. But basically what we now have the ability to do is go ahead and create a personalized video from you, and you can now place it on the last page of your Prime Seller Leads website. So step 4, where the lead is actually getting their home valuation. So you know, it doesn't, I mean, John will give some examples, I'm sure, as well, of ways he thinks that it should be used, but I think it really opens up a lot of opportunities for you to really make a connection with your lead, a personalized connection, and give them some more information and have a better chance of them actually calling you or answering your calls or emails.
I mean, just an audience, you know, I could pull a statistic from National Association of Realtors. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's been said that over 90% of real estate agents know that they need to use video in their business. That's also polls from NAR that show that that's what consumers want to see. And now you give the opportunity. The front door, the part of the mousetrap, was very clever, got them in. But now showing video, I mean, video, it's a no-brainer. It's going to help build rapport. They're going to know what you look like. They're going to know what you sound like. And when you make that phone call, those of you who have been actively calling on these leads, there's going to be less chance of rejection or feeling like it's a cold call. Many times they're going to feel that they know you with the right kind of video there. On future trainings, I'll have more examples of what goes in that page well. But as you can see, Josh has given you different examples if you want it to be a mix of video and property details above the fold, or if you want to make it all about the video and then scroll down further. So thanks, Josh, for that quick implementation. I really think that's going to help going forward. But again, what about the one on the call that's generated 200 different leads? Josh, I actually have some clients that use this purely as identifying. They have their other videos and campaigns and things that they send out, but they use the prime seller site for lead identification because they could blanket their advertising dollars to a huge market, you know, pulling out the red carpet, sending postcards and brochures to every doorstep. But what this system has done is helped you identify someone who is very likely going to sell. They're early in the market. You've identified them. So if you accomplish nothing other than having a stack of 200 leads where you need to make phone calls, pull out the red carpet, you've just saved hundreds and thousands of advertising dollars of just blanketing entire neighborhoods and zip codes with expensive postcards that honestly don't convert anywhere close to what we've seen online. Now, the important thing for you to know with lead generation in this manner, you've identified them, but have they identified you yet? They have a brother, they have a cousin, they have a coworker who has a license and practices part-time. Right now is the time that you need to step it up. I really think that it starts with page 4, where you can just blow them away with partial listing presentation or what you do, or what is the value of talking to you and getting a more in-depth market report. We need to now separate ourselves from the other agents in their life. So we really have two different plans that will treat full leads. Obviously, we're going to have a higher opportunity by having email and phone. And then, as you're familiar with through Josh's training, through his system, you're also collecting those that only completed page 1, the partial leads. So you're probably saying, well, yeah, it's obvious. I need to call them. And actually, the question that I asked to the audience earlier, Josh, out of the ones who were knocking it out of the park, with more than 13 appointments since you launched this product, or since they started with this product, they were making phone calls consistently. That's what was written in, or they were knocking on doors, a consistent part of their follow-up. That's obvious. You know you need to do it, but I want to show you some systematic and some easier ways to make it, because I know not everyone is a boiler room real estate agent, jump on the phone 24/7 and take rejection after rejection to get maybe the 3rd or maybe the 10th or maybe the 20th person to say yes. Not every agent, myself included, not every agent is built like that. So the first thing I want to show you is lead notifications. After I teach you this today, there is no excuse for you not to get a notification in real time. What I've noticed training real estate agents is many of you still use Microsoft Outlook. Josh does have a place under settings and profile where you can set up a text email. Did you know that probably 98% of you actually have a text email address associated with your cell phone carrier, which means the system can not only send you an email, and if you have Gmail, you're one of the lucky ones because Gmail has a great app, real-time notifications. But with a text email, even if you are dependent on being in front of your computer with Microsoft Outlook, I'm going to show you the ultimate workaround. So grab your pen and paper and write down this workaround for those of you using Outlook. Go ahead and type, no shame in it, type in Outlook if you're using Outlook right now, and I'll know that on the next training how relevant Outlook workarounds are for you. Go ahead and type Outlook in the question box. Again, half the real estate agents I work with use Outlook. So here's where you need the pen and paper. This is the most popular phone carriers, and this is your unadvertised special email address that will send a text message to you. And by putting that in the back end of Prime Seller, you can also get a text notification, because it is really critical that that first 5-minute phone call happen. Now, many of you did write Outlook, not quite half the audience that we have here today, so we either have some very technically savvy, or maybe you're embarrassed of typing Outlook. No shame. If you're with Verizon, for example, your text email address that you would want to put inside a Prime Seller is your phone number, no dashes, just a 10-digit phone number at vtext.com. I have the same if you're with AT&T. The main thing you should jot down is this extension, the at part. Of course, you're going to remember to put in your 10-digit number before. If I did not list your provider, there's a neat website called emailtextmessages.com. And one of the objections I get when you don't make that first phone call is you don't get the notification fast enough, and you don't feel good about making that phone call a few days later. So let me know on the call, if you're not making that first phone call in the first 5 minutes, what other reasons are you not making that first phone call? So again, under Profile Settings, here's where you enter in that digit, 10 digits, at, and then the extension I gave you. And if you already have Gmail and you're getting notifications in real time, no need for you to do that part. Okay, other objections that I see often is not having it rehearsed. What do I say on that first phone call? And I think the biggest mistake is going for the big sell. Remember, these are early in the process. A lot of them are standoffish. They want to look at the numbers. They want to talk with a spouse before they involve a real estate agent. So sometimes the worst thing you can do when you contact them right away is to be too pushy to get an appointment, and they haven't even talked to a spouse yet. You're about to get them in trouble. You know, the wife is looking at house values, and now you're going to call the husband and try to get an appointment to sell their home, and now you got a freak out going on at home. But just having a simple script. Be sure to thank them. Mention your name. An introduction. As you mention your name, you may mention the name of the website that they came to. Let them know this is not a cold call, that they actually requested information. And by this time you're a minute or so into the call, I want you to make a judgment call. You can go for that sell and go for that appointment depending on how receptive they are. But you may just stop it at that. That is an accomplishment, just making an introduction. Just like that page 4 can make an introduction to you, especially with the use of video. This can warm them up to receiving additional information for you. Now, I wouldn't say, would it be all right if I just go ahead and assume it's all right to go ahead and continue sending information. But if they're receptive and they say, oh yes, I was on that call, I'm thinking about selling, then you can go for the rest of it. But another upsell to you is simply a CMA. And actually, right when this phone call started, I used a program called Realtor Property Resource because I had a lead come in right before this phone call. I don't have any time right before a webinar to do a full-blown CMA. But what I can show you at the end of this call is within 1 minute, I requested a full CMA. It's pulling all the MLS data for me. At the end of this call, I'll show you a 40-page colored graphical report was created. And that's a great way to follow up also. If you have PCR disorder, you're not alone. Actually, my first year in real estate, the home builder that I was working for had a test, and it was actually called the phone call reluctance test. And many real estate agents suffer from this. You are an over-preparer, and you want to be prepared. So you feel like, oh, I got to get in front of my dashboard. I got to look at everything. I got to Google them, Facebook them, LinkedIn. I got to do a full-blown CMA before I can get on the phone and talk intelligently. If you're in that, do not let that be the reason that you don't make that fast phone call. You can use a program like SlideDial, and I will say it works 95% of the time. 5% of the time it will actually dial through to their cell phone and they answer it. So just be cautious. But if you are busy, you're on an appointment, you're doing any number of 100 different things that you do in real estate, you could actually get that real-time lead notification that I just taught you how to do and make a quick phone call. You can bypass their phone ringing and go directly to their cell phone voicemail. And what happens is they'll say, somehow I missed your phone call if they call you back. But the beauty is you're not interrupting them many times during the day. They might be at the office and they're sneaking to your website and doing a house valuation. And if you call them and they have to start talking about their property in the middle of where they're supposed to be working, it can go negative very, very fast. SlideDial has an app on iPhone. It has an app on Android, so you can call directly from the app. But I've actually found the best accuracy. Some of you on the call who know me, you might be scratching your head right now. Now I know John Pohly's trick. I've gotten a few phone calls, didn't see the phone ring, and it somehow got to my voicemail inbox. This is my trick. Text 267 SlideDial or 267-759-3425, and then it will tell you what number do you want to contact. And you can leave your generic script, the same script I gave you, over and over again, and you get to be the one who made the fast follow-up. You ended up in their inbox and at least made that connection so that your future follow-up is more meaningful. So another problem that I see is agents are too busy. And really, if they're too busy, it's the lack of process in place. A virtual assistant could easily solve that. Sometimes paying someone in your office additional money to handle leads as they come in. A front desk person is almost always looking for additional money. A college kid. This is something that I'm pretty fascinated with, automation. And Josh, a while back, I'd asked you, could you please create an integration with a service called Zapier? And I won't get too geeky on this call, but basically Zapier is the connection piece of the internet. It connects what Josh is doing at Prime Seller to about 200 different software platforms. Inside of Zapier, there are about 10 different services that will make automated phone messages doing the same kind of thing that I mentioned on SlideDial, and make sure that you get real-time messages going out to those that register on your site. So Josh, I won't put you on the spot unless you happen to know more about automation, but when I figure that out, I'm sure you're going to be one of the first people I talk to.
Well, that'd be great. I'd love to obviously learn more about it. I mean, I do think Zapier is great. I personally haven't gotten into it a huge amount besides the testing that we did to set it up, but I think the potential is pretty massive for it. And I do know from chatting in our private Facebook group and just having private chats with real estate agents all over the place who are using Zapier, they've got some really cool automations going with it.
So I'm looking for those pieces. It would be all great if we follow the advice of Captain Obvious, make that phone call in the first 5 minutes, but the less you leave for chance and for busy or any of the other objections I hear all the time, even better. But since I haven't found that secret recipe yet, I'm not going to go any further, but that's kind of a plug for Josh's team. They're so quick to innovate. And think about it. Think about your virtual assistant as probably more realistic for most of you. Just get that phone call out there quickly. So I call it the Jack Bauer 24-hour action plan. Okay, we got it. That phone call needs to happen. What else can you do or set in place so you have a greater chance of converting these leads further down the road? I want to also bring in the partial leads that are generated in Prime Seller. Everything that I've written down here could be easily implemented, at least with the handwritten note, the RPR, and I'll show you an example of that in just a second, or a custom report. But you really should embrace, just like any good CRM contact management system, it's only as good as the level that you use it at. So with the alert that goes out that notifies you of a new lead, you can simply click from that alert and magically you're transported into the admin area of your Prime Seller site. If you have the action plans, which you can completely customize within Prime Seller, and day one, new lead comes in, whether it be partial lead or full lead, someone on your team is writing a handwritten note with a business card or other marketing material. That should happen on autopilot. If you have a good resource, like I'll show you, I'll go ahead and end the webinar today. I'll show you the example right before the webinar happened. I had a lead come into Prime Seller. I typed in the address. And you're about to see the kind of report that I did with 1 minute worth of work. Printing out something like that on glossy paper, a 40-page report, have it overnighted or hand-delivered or even a couple days later. You don't have to mention the site that they came from. That's how, remember, that's the audience identification. You don't have to say you came into my stealth website or whatever you call your Prime Seller site. Just work from assumption that they're going to think, wow, this agent does this for everyone. What would they do if I actually hire them? That kind of effect. They don't have to know our secret ways of identifying them as a hot prospect. The phone call, whatever your results were from that 5 phone call, especially if you have a virtual assistant making the call, have her leave notes for you. Go ahead and schedule an appropriate time for a second call. If you got voicemail, keep trying until you get it. And another great thing that an assistant can do, and Josh, you may have added this already, do you have some level of lookup as contact information comes in? Do you have validation happening?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we do have it now. It's not live yet. It's something we're still working on. I have searched high and low for databases so that we'd have the ability to just take an address and then be able to turn that address into an actual homeowner's name and phone number, whether it be a home phone and a mobile phone, and we finally have it. So right now, we're working on the integration for that. I'm hoping to be able to release that real soon, but I think it's a game changer because now, any partial leads before, you may work partial leads, you may not work partial leads, but now that you have the ability, or you're soon going to have the ability to get a name, the owner's name and phone number for those partial leads, it's just another opportunity for you to make those phone calls. And in addition to that, any full leads that you have where you just have a name and an email address, we'll even have a higher percentage or a higher likelihood percentage of actually being able to get that phone number for that particular homeowner when we have a name, address, and an email address to go with it. So it's going to be in the very near future.
So that's awesome. The workarounds that I use right now is your virtual assistant can simply go look at who is this person on LinkedIn. If you Google someone's name, typically LinkedIn is one of the first 3 search results. Google them and see what kind of thing. And a lot of times if you Google an email address and it doesn't appear anywhere on the internet, there's less likelihood that that's a legitimate email address. But Spokeo.com is a paid service, $5 a month. But I like that Josh is working on integrating that. The more we can get that into the CRM, and the less things to look at other sites, even better. It's more likely then that it just becomes part of the CRM follow-up process. Now, what you mentioned, Josh, the ability on a partial lead to pull a phone number, half the agents might say, well, that I don't have permission on that. I don't know about making that phone call. Agents do it all the time, but if you're a little bit more passive, you want to do more permission-based marketing, you'll want to listen to my part 2 of Got a Ton of Leads, Now What? One of the things I'll show in our next segment, it'll be about 2 weeks from now, is how you can take phone numbers and how you can market to them online. How you can take your prime seller site, these leads who've come in over the past few months, and how you can remarket to them. Now, you might be saying, well, why would I send them through the same process they already completed, at least partially? Well, in my next segment, I'll give you some ideas for other things that you can do. Remarketing to them with a unique value proposition. It's a lot of things that I use when I build conversion funnels, showing them additional steps. They already identified themselves, so the next likely step is let's get in closer to relationship to them and how we do that. That will be about 2 weeks from now. Thursdays seem to work good for me, Josh, but we'll talk offline on the next event. But what really gets me excited about partial leads with Prime Seller, remember I said through my testing, working with 30 different real estate agents using Prime Seller throughout the nation, is I'm seeing 25% opt-in rate on average. That first page, they at least enter their address. Well, what happens to the 75% that didn't take action that day? The remarketing that I'll show you in 2 weeks, actually you don't know who those people are. You don't know their address. They came to the first site and for whatever reason they did not fill it out. But when they leave your site and they go and log into Facebook, we can identify them as this is a better lead than just the blanket geographic territory or other things. I'm also 2 weeks from now going to really dig into Facebook. New changes that have come down the pipeline means that you can do a better job of advertising. Josh, I know that Facebook has recently partnered with real estate data mining so that now Facebook knows who owns a house, who rents a house. If they own a house, Facebook knows the approximate value of that house. How perfect of a match is that for advertising on Facebook, only to homeowners and a target price range that you know can move quickly, or that is your desired luxury niche. We'll show more of the back end of Prime Seller on the next one. Josh, on the next one, I'd like to show how you've built subdomains for different niches and how we can use a subdomain of one Prime Seller account to drive a different niche, for example, the luxury market. And also on the audience, in my closing couple of minutes, any questions you have for me, go ahead and type away, but let me know what subtopic of handling leads would you like to see 2 weeks from now. I had a lot of people perk up when I said retargeting. We'll be sure to include that. Let's see, other questions coming in. What does your system look like when calling a seller? How many times do you call the potential client? Until you make substantial contact. So voicemail is not enough. It's still something that you want to have contact with at least once. And then email drip campaigns, we'll dive into, I've written my own campaign. It's 13 different touches. Feel free to steal it from me, swipe it from me, and customize it, but I will share that 2 weeks from now. You can take my ideas and take the ones you like and keep the rest. And many of you are typing in retargeting and how to make a custom audience of other real estate agents and then exclude them. That's another thing I know how to do. When you're internet marketing ninja and you're going completely stealth, you don't want every real estate agent out there to figure out. And I know, Josh, you would probably love it, and I don't mind it, for more people to know about your product. But for the real estate agent who has Prime Seller as their arsenal, a lot of times you don't want your competition to see what you're doing. So I will actually show you kind of a homework assignment, those that want to make sure that other real estate agents do not see their advertisements. Go ahead and your homework assignment, Kirk in particular, a few other of you typed in, your homework assignment before I train you 2 weeks from now, come with a list of your top 20 agents. And what I want you to do is come with 2 lists. Number 1, I want you to come with a list. You can put it in a text file. The first text file, put all those agents, put all their different phone numbers. In each line of the text file, put a different phone number. Don't put multiple phone numbers on the same line. The reason why, you'll see 2 weeks from now when we upload that to Facebook. The second thing I want you to do is create a second text file. All your likely competitors in real estate, create your top 20 list. Get their email addresses and put it on a second text file. Each email address should be on a line by itself, and bring both of those text files next week, and I will pick someone. I'll probably pick on myself, so I'm not logging into your Facebook account, but I'll show you how to upload that and make that a negative filter on your advertising. So your top 20 most likely to compete with you realtors are not seeing your advertisement and how you're getting all these leads.
And that's been a popular subject in the private Facebook group for many months. Agents have wanted to know how to do that. So everybody will have the ability now once John shows you how to do it.
Yeah, I think we have a segment of this crowd, the super geeky crowd or the super experienced crowd that knows that imitation happens, and before long this gets out, other agents will be trying to copy it. The good thing for you is if they're not copying it with Prime Seller, I've tested a lot of different sites and they're not going to get near the conversion rate that you all are as clients of Prime Seller. So I'll go ahead and end it on that, Josh. And thanks for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and John, thank you very much for taking the time to conduct this, and I really appreciate it. And for everybody, John's agreed to do 2 of these a month for us. So he's got a ton of knowledge. I've actually listened in to many of his webinars before, and I mean, I've been doing this in internet marketing since 1996 full time. And I can honestly say that every time I listen to one of John's webinars, I learn something new. So, John, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
You bet, and thanks for all the innovation. Just completely blown away with the API, the software innovations, and now the video on that 4th page. I want each one of you to try that out for next week. Go ahead and put a video on that 4th page and see if it increases your phone calls or increases the likelihood that you're received well when you make that first phone call to them. Thanks again, and Josh, I guess you'll have this archived and up for those who don't see the
I will.
live.
I'll have this up in the private Facebook group for everybody within an hour.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, and have a great week.
Thanks again, everyone. Take care.